This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
What's good, folks? Welcome to another edition of the Cover One Film Room, the show that gives you the hows and the whys behind both the good and the bad of the Buffalo Bills, powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. I am one of your two hosts, Anthony Prohaska, joined as always by Eric Turner. And Eric, another fun episode. Back-to-back wins for the Buffalo Bills after back-to-back losses the previous 2 weeks. So they lose to Baltimore, they lose to Houston, they come back with a nice victory against the Jets, and then this past week, they go back home after being on the road for 3 games, and they start out a bit rough and less than desirable in certain areas, but they finish strong with a 34-10 victory against the Tennessee Titans at home. We will be diving into the film from that game, I think some high-level things, too, from a philosophical and identity perspective, tying that in with what we saw from an actual on-the-field, on-the-tape perspective, and some metrics to go along with it. But before we get into that, how you doing? How you feeling? What's going on?
Good, man. And that game being back in Buffalo was a major factor, as we're going to show you tonight. It's going to be a fun episode because usually we break it down, offense and defense. Each segment's kind of separated. Well, this game, it was too difficult to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to be bouncing around back and forth to show you the complementary football angle of it, but to add the context to those situations, because when you're watching the game, sometimes the emotions of the games, kind of get the best of you and you kind of lose thought.
For a lot of people, yeah.
And so you lose the context of, what led to what. And so we're going to break that stuff down tonight in the film room. And there's no doubt, you said it, it was rough. It was a rough beginning on both sides of the ball. We're going to frame that. We're going to put that in perspective tonight. And I think it really comes back to the coaching staff and how they like to go into games. And if we're talking about, specifically, like, say, the defensive side of the ball, they don't do many things that are complex, man. Can they show a few different wrinkles to get to their Tampa 2 coverages? Absolutely. They do some different wrinkles like that, but more times than not, their game planning is like, okay, we know when this team, the offense, opposing offense, wants to go into a 3-by-1 set, we want to have this coverage against it. And so then, when it comes to things like that, it's pretty easier for the opposing offense to game plan their play script against the Bills defense, and vice versa for the offense. I think it's very similar, as you'll see tonight. And so I think early in games, specifically on the defensive side of the ball, you see some big things happen for the opposing offense. And we're going to show you how those things unfolded versus the Titans. We're also going to show you the adjustments they made, the coaching staff, but also some of the players and what they did to kind of thwart the Titans' plan going in, specifically from like the second and third quarter on.
The game planning stuff, how teams prepare, what they do in game, I think so much of it gets, and you alluded to it a bit, like I think it gets lost in the general conversation, even like an opening game script for like the actual plays. Like people talk about all the time. They talk about Andy Reid all the time, like the first 15, the first 20 plays that are scripted and this and that. And some of that is, hey, we think we're going to get this, so these plays can kind of take advantage of that. But also within that, you're calling plays that are kind of like poking and prodding to see what the defense is going to do. You're gathering, like those opening plays are data gathering plays. At the same time. So you can see like, okay, like when we did this, when we went with this 4 strong, this is how they responded. When we went with twins and ran this concept, this is what we noticed. This is how we think they're checking or how they're fitting, so on and so forth. So there's times where your first 15 are like, man, we got 10 points out of our first 2 drives. Everything is clicking. And there's times where, sweet, we're rolling. And then there's times where it's ugly and it's not working good. And that can happen on both sides of the ball. But that's where you have to adjust and you start to tweak. And it could be something as easy as, we're going to run the ball more, or we're running the ball in.
First down groupings, right?
Exactly. First down groupings, or this is where we're losing, or we're struggling on third down because of this, or we need to switch to more gap scheme runs, or these concepts. Defensively, whole nother conversation, how you're fitting the run, everything. Yeah.
Or even, you may have the right plan. You have this certain passing concept called the 2-man route combination that is actually great versus this coverage that they're going to play. It didn't quite work out in the first half, but in the second half, you bring it back out, which Brady does a lot.
Yeah, you bank it.
Challenge
you
everyone.
In the holster, yeah.
I challenge everyone to go back and start watching the film from the second half, opening drive for Joe Brady on, and go look at those plays, look at those first 10 to 12 plays of the second half, and then go back to the first half and look at the same formations in place. Because there are times where he's calling the same exact play, but they tweak something. They have the wide receiver run the route a little shallower, so he creates that rub for the running back. Little things like that. It's not just, you heard the staff talk about it. It's not just X's and O's changes. Sometimes it's just a motivational thing at halftime, and sometimes it is just little tweaks to an already solid game plan, but it was a half a click off. And we saw a bunch of that in the first half against the Titans, specifically on the offensive side of the ball.
And we see that literally in every game, positive or negative. One that, I know we both talked about last week, I think not necessarily on the show, but on Twitter, with that Shakir's running that over route and Samuel runs the over route and DJ Reed is all over it, I believe, in the first half. They run a similar concept, similar look later, except now they have Matt Collins chuck the hell out of DJ Reed to create some space for Khalil Shakir. It's the same concept, same play, same
slightly
coverage.
Different personnel grouping.
Yep, exactly. And that we showed that last year also with Joe Brady. Ironically, the first game when he took over against the Jets, they're adjusting the depth of that little snag route to pair that to pair it with the running back wheel or the swing. That happens all the time, but not when it's a better performance, quote unquote, or a better start. People don't notice that as much. They just think everything's been clicking from the get-go. But in a game like this, where it starts out a little slow, then it becomes, more microscopic or put more under the microscope and in the spotlight, I should say. And this graph, you and I were going over this before we went live here, or recorded here, I should say. I think this is a really good visual representation in terms of seeing how the Bills are performing in specific areas and metrics with their overall rank league-wide, and then how it ebbs and flows by quarter.
Right. And this is, these are statistics courtesy of True Media. And so I compiled these and I gave them to our producer, Chris Seth. And I said, dude, make a visual for me that, kind of just portrays the way the Bills defense has been playing this year. Because like we said, early in games, the defense kind of gets gashed. And you can see it. They're ranking in most of these stats along the right side of the graph and chart. You can see they're ranked really, really bad.
I was going to say for everybody, right? Like the higher that these go, that's like the better, like they're ranking better. I don't want people to see these and be like, oh, look how high all these things are on their fourth. No, that means they're getting better. Like the higher it goes.
Right. And so you can follow these lines and by quarter, you can tell, okay, early on, they are pretty bad on defense. And like I said, I think people don't realize like the Bills defense, they are almost always 98%, I'd say 98% in their over front. So, and most of the time it's that nickel over, right? So Taron Johnson's in there, but their 3 technique is almost always aligned to the strong side of the formation. And that makes it pretty easy for opposing offenses when they want to run their best plays. Okay, what are the best plays versus these over fronts? And so you'll see a lot. And overall, the Bills defense, when it comes to stopping the run, is not good overall. But you can see early on, not just rushing, but also passing, their rankings are really bad. Then you see they adjust. Those numbers shoot up and start to, look much better on paper and on film for that matter. But then it's funny after halftime, you see, there's like a counter punch. There's like a counter punch by the opposing team in some of these metrics. But then obviously in the fourth quarter, the Bills, have done a really good job. Kind of been the MO for the year overall. So, I know there's a lot of different stats on this chart or graph. But you can just see the trends and how the Bills come out a little slow or, a little rough, as you said at the top, but the staff, the players adjust, then you get a counter. And then the Bills end up usually finishing off pretty well when we're talking the defensive side of the ball.
And the Bills, the way the Bills play, especially defensively, is so like kind of chess matchy, but from an in-game perspective. We see so many teams who come out and we're like, hey, no, we're going to try and dictate right from the jump where we put this package in this week because we think, A, B, and C is going to happen. And the Bills are like, no, we're kind of just going to do what we normally do. And then based on if that works or doesn't, we'll figure it out from there. And I think this chart and this graph really represents it well when you see the difference from first quarter to second quarter, the counter from second to third, and then how things finish in the fourth, even the relation of, that one, the magenta-ish colored line that's yards down in the yards per rush. And you see that and it's like, wow, they're giving up like a ton of yards per rush in the fourth quarter. And that's also like, but they've had a lot of games where they're up on teams. And so they're going to be like, cool, run the ball on us. We're up by 20. We don't care. Good. Have fun running for 6 yards a clip. We're just trying to get out of here and watch the clock and go home. And you tie that in with the game script nature of and how it all comes together. And I think that's where the context comes in of knowing this team, seeing the data, and then actually watching them on film, being able to see the technique and scheme and all of it play together. It puts that holistic picture together of how they play from an identity and philosophy standpoint.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man. And like I said, we were kind of focusing on the defensive side of the ball because that's we're going to start off with that tonight. But I think a lot of those points also apply to the offensive side of the ball. And like I said, that not a lot of wrinkles are coming out, and in that early play script is usually Brady trying to gather intel more so than get out of the gates fast. But I think a lot of those similar points kind of apply to the offensive side of the ball. So just awesome stuff by Chris to make that visual and kind of tie it all together, because that's kind of how you feel as a fan when you watch this team, especially if we're talking the defensive side of the ball. So it was interesting to see how the numbers match our feelings, our emotions, and the film study so far this year on the defensive side of the ball.
Absolutely. Yeah, very fair. And, we want to be able to provide that for you folks, kind of set the table and set the tone for this episode. Before we dive into the defensive conversation and the resulting film, wanted to pull up this graphic from our friends over there at BetUS, who, if you are looking for a new sports book this football season, BetUS is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry, 150% bonus on your first deposit, and then a 125% bonus on your next two deposits up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. Fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process. 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year, and they can also give you your very own personal account manager. We have this graphic pulled up here that talks about who else will be traded at the deadline. Eric, I told you this offline. And I don't even want to jinx it now, I was really convinced the Bills would do something today to throw our episode out of whack, as they traditionally
kind of the MO.
do. It really is. It's legitimately is. Amari Cooper is on this graphic. We saw the impact that he had already in his first game for the Bills this past week against Tennessee. Also on this graphic is DeAndre Hopkins, who it looks like he'll be going to the Kansas City Chiefs. But is there anything, not necessarily of anybody on this graphic, if there was a move that the Bills could make, is there an area you would gravitate towards? Is it a certain side of the ball? Is it a certain position? Is it a certain player? Do you think there's anything that's, needs to kind of be buttressed or buoyed a little bit, if you could have? And it could be small. It could just be like, I'd like another
has to be much.
another pass rushing edge. Or are you like, you know what? No, let's risk it all for Myles Garrett because that's what I want.
No, I mean, I won't say no to that,
right?
But just with all the factors with salary cap and where this roster is and where they're, building towards the contracts on the horizon, some of the issues I've seen on the defensive side of the ball, I think adding another depth interior defensive lineman, I think, is huge. One, obviously, Oliver's kind of been up and down, which, the factors including injuries being there. Daquan Jones has had his moments. He's obviously getting up there in age. Carter, like, he's had awesome flashes, but then there are times where he's getting thrown out of the club. Same with Austin Johnson. And so for as much as we talked up this interior defensive line, I don't think they've lived up to that billing yet. And so I think when we're talking stopping the run and rushing the passer, I think that second wave of defensive tackles needs some competition, needs some new blood in there, because when that second defensive line comes in, teams are doing what they want. They know who's in and they come right at them. And so I think that wouldn't cost a lot. And I think that it could pay dividends, especially if we're talking later in the year, as Oliver, gets his reps up, and Daquan Jones with, with his age and the wear and tear on his body gets up there. We want to save guys like that for later in the year. So I need that second wave of D tackles to up their game, or at least maybe go get someone that can compete with them, so that when the drop off is not as massive.
So we did not plan this ahead of time. This was kind of just, Eric had his answer and I had mine. We kept it organic. I'm in the exact same spot. And really, and I feel bad saying it because, I'll post like something positive about Dwayne Carter, and the responses that come through are like, yes, what a steal. Guy's a beast. Look at this play. And it's like, yeah, this play is great, but this isn't what we're seeing down in and down out. Majority of the time, down in and down out, we're seeing some not good stuff.
Yeah.
Austin Johnson has been a little shaky in that second tier. I am right there in lockstep with you. I think you could get a good, it doesn't have to be a high-end, defensive tackle 3 or a low-end 2. If they could pull that off, I'd love it. But get me somebody who can function into the rotation, provide a little bit more stability on that interior. I want somebody who can hold up reliably against double teams, who's not going to get, thrown out the club, like you said, or won't get displaced. Or even if you gave me somebody with a little bit more pass rush pop, I recognize you're not going to be able to get somebody has this holistic skill set, but somebody who can factor in a larger way, in a more consistent way, down in and down out in terms of stability and maybe some impact. I would love that on the interior defensive line, because that position group worries me. When Carter and Johnson come in, I'm worried, and it's a scary thing, especially as you're going to play these teams down the road who know how to attack you, know how to run the ball, and all of those pieces. But thank you again to our friends at BetUS, for the graphic and for the episode sponsorship as we continue to do. And Eric, let's move over to the defensive side of the ball. The momentum aspect the defense really took with them, the adjustment aspect that the defense really had starting early, I think, in the first half and in the second quarter, as this first play is going to go through, really kind of set the tone for being able to turn this game around positively for the Bills.
Yeah, and so, in the second quarter, again, we're talking about momentum and how it's real. I don't know how people don't believe in momentum. We saw it firsthand. You felt it firsthand in this game from the first to second half. And, we're going to start with the defensive side of the ball because of the adjustments that the defense made to get the ball back for the Bills offense. So now we're in the second quarter here. This is a power run concept. We're going to show you 3 plays where the opposing offense was running a power run concept top of the second quarter. And you can see how Dorian Williams, kind of overplays the pulling guard. And then you're going to see Terrell Bernard shoot the back door here. And the defense kind of gets creased here for an 8-yard gain on a power run concept. That's a backside guard pulling. And that little, mishap between those 2 players leads to an 8-yard gain. Well, we see another play, another power run concept, this time in the second quarter on the next drive, 6:07 left on the clock. And you see the Bills do a much better job. Watch Dorian Williams. He does his 111th here. He comes downhill and he takes on the blocker. Epinesa, instead of Smoot, is in there. Watch how he dominates this rep. Anthony, I know you love this rep. Watch how those 2 guys do their job, dominate their reps, and then Hamlin from the backside, as that receiver tries inserting, he comes down, he makes a tackle with Epinesa. Just a good adjustment. This time, from this first play to the second play, was really on the players and the defensive front, more so than an actual X's and O's adjustment on this play.
Yeah, it was nice to see. And that first run came on the Titans' touchdown drive in this game. 8 plays, 75 yards. That was the drive where they had multiple successful runs and passes that really felt like they started to open up the Bills' defense and gash them a little bit. But you see this one again, just later in this first half, later in quarter 2, like we showed here. You see the Bills players and defense starting to tweak and put some stops together. Plays like this started to really set the table for their second half adjustment and performance. And, you mentioned the play from Epinesa. I love that. I always think if you're getting blocked by a tight end and you're a defensive end, you need to win that battle 10 out of 10 times. Epinesa dominates this rep here against the tight end, whose name I know, but I always butcher it, so I'm not going to pronounce it. I'm not going to pronounce Chick's last name. It's too hard. He jacks up and knocks back the tight end into the pulling guard, into Raduns. So they collide with one another, and then they go down, and he leaps over their carcasses to make the play on Pollard. It's so nice. Yeah,
it's pretty.
It's awesome. It's beautiful play from Epinesa, but you highlighted what Dorian's doing on that play and how he's reacting different. And you needed him to react different on that one because Latham and Skoronski crush Austin Johnson on that double team. You needed Dorian to trigger there to help stymie that run just based off what happened at the first level.
Yeah, and so now we go to the third quarter, top of the third quarter. So again, the Titans coordinator is like, you know what? We're going to start off with a similar concept. We had some decent success with it in the first half, and we're going to see if we can get it going here in the second half as they got the ball in the second half. Same power run concept, right to left on your screen. Watch the defensive end, Gregory Rousseau. I mean, watch Dwayne Carter. We were talking about getting thrown out of the club. Let's start with him in front of Dorian Williams. He gets thrown on this play, which collapses that entire side of the defensive line. But you see Rousseau play with strong, active hands, stack that tight end. You see Dorian Williams come downhill, slow down towards the line of scrimmage. And the corners are even getting involved here. You see Benford come down and contain that run. So you have Rapp. You have Benford, those two guys right there containing the run. Even Dorian Williams is getting in on this. Greg Rousseau already defeated his block. So as that running back wants to get up inside, they are there to make the tackle with some nice pursuit from the backside of this play. So you could see the players that stood up. Epinesa on the last play. Dorian did his job on the last play. Now it's Rousseau. It's everyone doing their 111th. Everyone doing their 111th and getting to the ball, getting population to the ball, and defeating blocks to shut down this power run concept for pretty much the rest of this game.
Yeah, and this one, as you had highlighted there early in the third quarter, this is on the first drive for the Titans coming out in the second half. And this, along with a couple other plays that we're going to get into, really started to take that pendulum and swing it in the Bills' favor in terms of momentum, in terms of turning this game around. And it started really with here. Yeah, unfortunate for Carter. He's already going to get washed down, and then he gets washed down so hard he trips on Raduns and goes down and gets pancaked by Petit Frere, their right tackle. But the rest of the work there, I love Benford is taking on Peter Skoronski, being a force player, shutting down the outside. You got Rat battling a tight end and fitting into his gap. You have Rousseau highlighted. You highlighted Dorian, the 111th, the team defense, adjusting, recognizing. I like the way Dorian plays this too. When he'll get himself out of position because of how he processes and how he pairs that with his speed. And, we showed it on the first one of these three plays, him getting a little too far out in front. This time he triggers, but slow plays a little bit. He's reading what's happening, and he's able to fit off of Rapp and Rousseau in front. And then, again, it's nice having arguably the best edge defender against the run in the NFL playing in front of you in Greg Rousseau.
No doubt. So that's where you saw, again, kind of players adjusting, getting used to the concepts that the opposing offense is going to run. Well, these next two plays, 3rd and 1, 4th and 2, these are the easy loans, auto sales, making it look easy plays of the game. We picked both of these because momentum is real, man. These stops added juice to the entire team, not just the defensive side of the ball, and we're going to see a bunch of plays at winning the line of scrimmage, something Sean McDermott talked about going in the half. And we're going to see several of the Bills players win at the point of attack. And I like this call out by Dorian and Bernard. They see that the quarterback is actually not under center, and it's going to be a direct snap to Pollard, the running back. They're pointing it out. And I love how the defensive line just totally collapses. You watch it from this angle. They totally collapse the interior offensive line. And honestly, this quarterback being right here really created another obstruction for the running back to get, having to get through that line. So Rousseau collapses that edge. That shortens the edge for Bernard. Obviously, you see Dorian Williams go up and over, and they are able to make the stop on 3rd and 1 here, which obviously set up 4th and 2.
Yeah, a little reminiscent of the play against the Texans in Bernard's first game back, where the Bills were able to kind of submarine the O-line up front and create that runway for Bernard to go over the top. This time, he gets around that short edge like you have highlighted. Good work inside from Daquan, especially, again, he was involved in that play against Houston that I referenced. Carter making a play there as well. And you get the athleticism of Dorian Williams being on display. And then, I love the point, too, of that you called out of Dorian and Bernard both calling out what they're seeing in the backfield. And then, Rudolph ironically getting in the way and contributing to Pollard having to go airborne. Dorian goes up and over the center. Pollard has to go up and over Mason Rudolph.
I know.
Who's on the ground.
They didn't think that was going to happen.
No, it just did not work out how you want it.
That's why usually the quarterback's like out wide as a wide receiver. Get out of the way.
Split him out. Just here, man. Just take a breather. You don't need to do anything on this play. So if anything, he hinders Pollard more than he helps. But great work from Rousseau, Carter, Jones there, Bernard, and Williams. And that play was huge in generating some momentum for the Bills. And then this one fully took that pendulum, swung it in their favor, and they really never looked back.
Yeah, this is freaking huge. This is that momentum swing. 4th and 2 stop here. And just watch again the defensive line. Watch Carter, low man wins, and they set the tone. Coming out of half, Carter just blew this guard up, and obviously blew this play up, and got the ball back for the Bills offense. And this was this changed the entire game because now the momentum's in the Bills' favor, and you're taking all of that progress that the Titans made on offense and getting up early out of the hands of their team. And so watch Carter, watch Rapp. Once again, look at the pad level of Carter. And this is something that, he has struggled with at times. And so he comes out of his stance nice and low and just bucks that guard to the ground, buckles his knees, and he's just in the backfield, blowing up the fullback, and the Raps there to go low on the legs. Carter's up high, and just a big tackle for loss on 4th and 2.
Yeah, this play along with the one before it. So you get the 3rd down stop previously that we showed. This is the 4th down stop to that. This changed the entirety of the game. These plays came back to back on Tennessee's opening drive to start the second half. The Bills are down 10-7 at this point. And what you end up getting is Tennessee turning it over on downs, giving the Bills a short field. The Bills would then convert on the next drive with a touchdown to take a 14-10 lead and never give that lead back, never allow any points to happen.
Yeah.
And you have the Bills D-line highlighted up there. Look at the displacement
Get off there,
that is created. Yep, look at the get off. Daquan is already kind of pushing that neutral zone a little bit and just shoots right out of his stance like he shot out of a cannon. And, good call on Carter for, what we talked about earlier with the trade deadline stuff and talked about him in a couple plays before. This is what you want to see from him, playing low, playing with that flat back that you highlighted from him when we were back at the Senior Bowl, seeing him in individual and playing in drills. Yeah, this is a really great job from him. He bucks Skoronski, like you said, and then works his way through the tight end. Rapp makes a great play. I just like the Bills selling out for it in this instance, kind of knowing what's going to happen as a team, selling out for the run. And you understand it where Tennessee came from, right? You were having success on the ground. It's 4th and short. You've been creating displacement. You know what? Let's think we can continue to do it again here. Let's go after them. And the Bills just, whether it was mentality or whether it was just kind of knowing what was going to happen, they make a huge play and turn the course of the entire game right here.
Yeah, just awesome stuff. And this is the easy loan auto sales, making it look easy play of the game. Both of these plays together paired. We just thought that it's an opportunity to give the D some love, first of all. And especially when we're talking, defensive front. And it really was the turning point, like you said.
Yes.
And it was, these two plays were so important. I don't know how the Bills fare in this game if this doesn't happen. Honestly, it just, like, the probability felt like it was not in the Bills' favor, and then it was an immediate swing after these 2 plays by the Bills defense.
Absolutely. The Bills offense was struggling a little bit at this point. They hadn't found consistent success. And if the Titans get this first down, they're feeling even better about themselves. The crowd is going to feel worse. The Bills are going to feel worse. Instead, it was a big momentum swing in favor of the Bills when it could have been one for the Titans. And that's why these 2 plays are our making it look easy loan auto sales play of the game. Sponsored, of course, by Easy Loan Auto Sales, who, regardless of your credit situation, Easy Loan can help get you behind the wheel and on the road to better credit. All of their vehicles include a 2-year, 24,000-mile warranty, and they have 3 convenient locations in Buffalo, Lockport, and Niagara Falls. They can get you driving today. Go to easyloanauto.com to start your accelerated approval. And like you said, shout out to the defense for making it into the record books for the making it look easy play.
All right, so now the Bills take over the ball after that big stop, 1st and 10 situation, 10-7 now. So why don't you set up this play, Anthony? Again, this is a huge momentum swing, but the Bills take the ball now, 1st and 10, on the Titans side of the field here with Josh under center.
Yeah, so this is the first play for the Bills after that Tennessee turnover on downs. Again, this drive would end up being converted into a touchdown for the Bills to take a 14-10 lead. They're down 10-7 at this point right now. And this is a play that we've seen with a good amount of regularity from the Buffalo Bills, usually going to Dalton Kincaid. We'll see Allen hit the top of his drop and find Kincaid and hit him over the middle. Kincaid is really good at finding those windows, getting in between multiple linebackers or, a box safety and a linebacker. We've seen, again, Allen hit Kincaid with a decent amount of regularity, and you see his eyes go there right away. Allen looks right towards Kincaid, but there's a little bit of traffic there and some gravity. Ernest Jones, who the Bills might be seeing again this week because he was traded to Seattle, starts to get underneath a little bit. So Allen says, okay, cool. Let me get my eyes to Coleman, who actually does a pretty good job getting into the corner's blind spot, turning him inside out and working back in on the deep curl. And Allen pins it on him for a nice, successful gain to start this drive after the turnover on downs.
Yeah, I feel like, I felt like in the second half, Brady and the offense, they changed from, hey, we're going to run these concepts, whether it's pass or run, in the first half and just running it. And they went to more of the Jimmies and the Joes. That's what, part of the one of the topics for this show was. They went to, okay, we're going to throw it to Kincaid. And you know what? If Kincaid's not open, we're going to throw it to the number 2, who's on the backside of this, in Coleman. And then we're going to throw it to Amari Cooper. I felt like they went with plays that were designed for a specific player, the Jimmy and the Joes, versus just running concepts. And like you said, this was like Dalton Kincaid's best concept last year for this offense, this play action pass. And a lot of times he actually had success, 15, 20, 25 yarders. And obviously the Titans have seen it and they shut it down. And this play hasn't worked all that well for Kincaid in the middle this year. But we have seen, we see Coleman in that X spot right there with a nice route, as you said. Scantling, MVS had a nice deep pass, a 20, 25 yard gain here. And I like your point about the route by Coleman here, because initially you see him, he's outside the numbers a couple yards. He kind of bends it inside right there. And now he's starting to bend it into the blind spot, like you said, the blind spot of the corner. And then as soon as he gets, up almost onto the guy's toes, he kind of bends it back. Now, is it sharp? No.
No, there's not a lot of sharpness or suddenness at all.
No, but it turned him around enough. And so he
works.
gets the win. He gets the win on that route. And again, good job working back to the ball. Not much after the catch, but this is again a play that was designed for Kincaid, but he wasn't open, but it opened up for someone else. And we saw that a bunch in this game. So, speaking of Kincaid, here's a third down play. Bills in a 3-by-1 set here. And they have Kincaid in like a nub tight end, just split just a little bit, a nasty split. It's like we always call it the quasi X, right? Backside of this formation, they have that wide split by the running back Johnson there, and so they get a 2 high safety look. So they work that kind of that high low to that side, that smash concept, and it's pretty easy read because you see the corner who actually had a really good game right here.
Brownlee is sweet, man.
He's phenomenal. He's gonna be a really good player, very physical. He was attached for most of the day to whoever he was guarding.
Yes.
It's zone coverage here. So he squats on that option route by Johnson. So now Johnson's little route got the attention of these two guys. That puts Kincaid one-on-one with that safety. And that's just a lot of green to cover for that safety versus a dangerous route runner. He just bends it to the boundary and Josh hits him. And Kincaid, he reeled it in with this basket, type catch. We talked about it before. He had a drop with that type of framing and mechanics. But on this one, on 3rd and long, he is able to bring it in for the first down.
Yeah, he goes to that basket catch again, similar to what he did against Houston when he had the drop, but this time he brings it in. And this one was in a big moment. It's 3rd and 12. It's on this same drive after that Tennessee turnover on downs. They're at the Titans 29. If this ball goes incomplete, you're looking at about a 46-yard field goal. And with the wind and Tyler Bass being a bit shaky, I think there's a pretty decent chance that you miss that field goal or you don't put up points, and then you could potentially give that momentum right back to the Titans that you just snatched. Instead, we get, another Jimmy's and Joe's type of play, just allowing Kincaid to be the quasi X, which I really hope they do more of. We've talked about it so much. You and I both posited that they might do that more without the presence of a true X, coming into the season. We haven't seen it a ton, and maybe we'll see it maybe even less now because of Amari Cooper, but you get Kincaid in that quasi X role. I also like you talked about Ty Johnson kind of being at running back depth, but being exploded out a little bit. It allows him to get into that hitch quicker and more decisively. Go ahead.
And get the eyes of that corner.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Because
he's out there quicker.
Yes, because it's not like he's not checking and releasing. He's getting out into the route distribution as an actual route runner, which holds that cloud corner and Murray, that weak side linebacker, like you highlighted. So they both react. Like both of their eyes are on Ty Johnson right now. And that happens because he's actually part of the route distribution. He's not, stacked or in necessarily like a twins type of alignment.
Better, no doubt.
Yes, the timing works out. The sequencing works. They get held and pulled forward. There's more space for Allen to fit this throw in. And then I like the ball placement from Allen. High and away from the safety. Take advantage of Kincaid's athleticism. Take advantage of his length and frame. Good ball placement. Kincaid climbs the ladder. I like so much about this. Just the moment it happened in, the design from an alignment perspective, and then Kincaid and Allen executing.
And then they kind of ran tempo right after and did a one-on-one to Kincaid, but it was, broken up. Again, a really nice play by the corner there. But you'll see now we're on to the next play, 2nd and 10 situation. So that next 2 plays later, you have Bills and empty. And I mean, we've seen this before, right, Ant? We've seen empty. And usually if it's in the red zone or low red zone, they're running all verts. This is no different. They had that bender route by Amari Cooper. We've seen this. We talked about it with, last week. We saw Josh call the alert versus the Cardinals, and he hit Mac Hollins on this same exact route.
This is the Mac Hollins route.
The Mac Hollins route. They just swapped out Cooper here. Same thing. It's an alert. They see cover 0, and they hit the post from the slot in the weak side of the formation. We saw it against the Jets where Hollins scored. So, again, pretty much all verts concept. The Titans pop out, but you have, this wide receiver, Cooper, who the Bills just traded for, getting a head start on a safety here. And he just turns him around. And Josh, with a beautiful throw from the end zone angle, you'll see the trajectory on it. Here's the alert from that Arizona game. Watch the slot, top of the screen. Same exact call, same exact audible, same exact result. And again, I referenced it. They did it in the Jets game as well. But the play here by Josh, the mechanics of it from the end zone angle, like it's just beautiful how he gets it up and over that defensive lineman and then kind of just drops it in there. You can see it. It's like it like dips down. I mean, you're a baseball guy. Like, what would you call that? Where it just drops like that right into the bucket.
Yeah, it's like he threw a sinker. Like it just falls
is.
off the table and just drops right in there. Yeah, that's my favorite part about this play. Like that it's cover 0, but Tavondre Sweat is dropping into the hole. So you've got
Terrible
like this.
Call.
Yeah,
Call.
but it's like you've just got this like small little mountain that just like Godzilla just dropped into the low hole. So Allen's
He's
like,
a big boy.
And he actually gets some vert on this one for being like a huge dude. He makes a decent play on it. So Allen literally has to layer it over him and, put some sink on it, increase that spin rate and get that ball to fall off the table right into Cooper. And yeah, such a pretty throw for what's your verbiage? How Allen pulled the string, right?
Yeah.
A little
bit.
He did. And layers it in there. It's pretty. I also think it's funny too. You can see, we showed it quickly, but how Mac Hollins ran that route against Arizona, and they both win versus how Cooper works it and runs
let's go back to that because that's a great point. Top of the screen. Watch how he just kind of rounds it off.
Yep.
Right? Kind of rounds it off, but he's got the big body to kind of box him out. See him round it off, and then if you look at Cooper's route, he adds a little sauce, right? A little sauce to that route, like we talked about last week when we were breaking down his film. Watch when he gets to the top of that route, he stabs outside, and then to the middle of the field. That separation, that's what the Bills have needed. So, I mean, you pretty much swapped out Cooper on this play for Hollins, and you see the results and the separation difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Just operating with that deception in his stem. It was my favorite part from his game this year. We're watching the Cleveland tape. We talked about it a lot last week. And again, he's not, flying out of the gate here from the slot. He's not, man, look how he's eating up all that cushion and getting on the toes. It's just controlled and like, okay, I'm just going to sell this and stab and turn Quandre Diggs inside out and boom, there's the space. And then add the timing of it with Allen's throw. Real nice and pretty to see the Bills take the 14-10 lead on a big drive after they turn over on downs.
All right, so now we flip back to the defensive side of the ball, right, Anthony? And we see in the first half some run plays. And again, stopping the run is pretty important when we're talking the Bills defense because they're in the same structure all the time. First half, you get a zone weak play here to the Bills, right side of the defense. And so watch how these defenders, the D end right here, and the D tackle and how they are affected. So you see the D tackle, Austin Johnson, get reach, and that allows the offensive lineman to get to the next level on Bernard, on Dorian Williams. Now you have the running back get into the second and third level. Look at that lane. Like, this is the first half. And so, again, the Bills are always in that over front. So it's pretty easy to scheme runs against that. And so now we go to the second half. Here, the Bills change it up. It's the same exact formation, same exact personnel. Now watch what the Bills do. This is an X and O's type play. They slant the DN and D tackle inside. That teams do that to disrupt the blocking scheme, especially if you're talking zone blocking. Zone blocking is like, hey, everybody step to the left on this play. These defenders right here going across the grain against the grain here disrupts all of those combination blocks. And what does it do? It keeps those speedy, undersized linebackers like Terrell Bernard and Dorian Williams free. And now you get a tackle for loss. This was not a Jimmy's and the Joes thing. This was a defensive adjustment by the coaching staff from the first to second half. And that's what really helped put the Titans behind the chains when we're talking that second half.
Yeah, this is again where the Bills have snatched the momentum. They're starting to build and stack, and the Titans are starting to find that what worked for them previously is no longer working. I love run stunts and gap exchanges. And there are times where, if you get caught at the wrong moment, at the wrong time, you're running it, the play's going the other way, all of a sudden you're creating these alleys and it can really get you. But for a defense like the Bills, that is pretty static. Like we talked about, 4 down over front, nickel 4 down over front. Like that's what they're going to be. I love this as a changeup for them to really create some chaos. And on the previous one where there was success, you saw that B gap bubble where zone runs are designed to attack wide open there. Yeah. Latham is taking Tuhill. Skoronski's climbing to the second level against Bernard. There's that B gap highlighted right there where zone runs like to attack. Right? Yep, Bernard is 100% exposed. You get a nice little feed from Skoronski on Johnson. It helps 79 Cushenberry be able to fully reach him and turn him. Petit Frere gets on the inside of his man. Radunes climbs up to Dorian Williams. This is perfectly blocked. This is so well done. And then air traffic control highlighted that alley there. And then juxtaposing this with that B gap runway that was taken advantage of with here, like, you've highlighted and you had, drawn up on the telestrator a minute ago, right before we switched. Now you get AJ Epinesa spiking into that B gap. He's driving inside and disrupting. Bernard is triggering to the C gap. Then you've got Dorian, who triggered and is now able to fit off of there because, as you've highlighted, Skoronski 77, he now has to chase Bernard, which opens up the opportunity for Williams to make a play. And then the backside guard, the right guard, can't get to Dorian because Austin Johnson has also stunted inside.
Pretty work, man.
So pretty. And look at between Ed Oliver and Austin Johnson, they've taken up 3 blockers. They took up the center, the right guard, and the right tackle because of their movement and the run stunt here. And between that and then AJ Epinesa slanting inside to that B, it allows Dorian and Bernard to come free, come clean, make the play. And that's really what you want from these fast, athletic linebackers, like you said. But also for someone like Bernard, who is undersized, you want to keep him clean and let him be able to read and make plays.
Right. And so penalties, plays like that, tackle for losses, adjustments by the defense, whether we're talking the coaching staff or the players, really put the Titans behind the chains. And if you listen to some of the pressers, they straight up told you, like, hey, at times we hurt ourselves with penalties and pre-snap penalties, but also, the Bills did adjust. And so the Bills are now up 14-10. This is the same drive. It's a 1st and 15 situation. A penalty did occur here, right, Ant?
Yeah.
And this is a Jimmy's in the Joe's play. But it's the second half, to me, the pass rush, which was phenomenal for the especially early portion of the game, was now becoming complementary with the pass defense. And on this play, you're going to see, as far as the back half of the coverage, the Bills coverage, Taron Johnson takes away this little option route to the bottom of the screen. And so Rudolph is not able to throw it quickly on 1st and 15, which allows Rousseau to get home with a power move for the sack.
Yeah, this play, so there were a couple penalties on this drive. The most immediate one was a false start on the Titans that set them up into this 1st and 15 that we see here. But previously, the Titans had gotten a first down because of a defensive pass interference call on Rasul Douglas, which I feel like was a little unwarranted.
Yeah,
but
that was whack.
It was wacky, but nonetheless, they called it. And yeah, you talked about the pressure in this game. The Bills in this week 7, had the 2nd highest pressure rate amongst all teams playing in week 7. They had a pressure rate of 52.3%, which, again, 2nd on the week and is crazy high compared to their yearly average. And they also overall volume led the league in overall pressures this week with 23. And it felt like Greg Rousseau had 20 of them just eating in this game. He was such a problem off that right edge against Petit Frere. That is the weakness of this offensive line. And we're seeing him continue to win with these inside moves.
It's wild, man.
Yeah, right.
What a development. What a development with him.
It's been huge. And we know, and this isn't necessarily a negative, he's not he's never going to be a great change of direction guy or a bend and dip guy. So he's either got to go through you or he's got to get inside. And his ability to do that here by understanding rush angle, the tackle set line, and then his hand placement, his length and strength and leverage, all of that playing in I could talk about it every time because we had him on in the film room with us. He talks about it, whether it's against the run or the pass. He talks about hand placement and getting it on the numbers or the pad or the collar and what he's trying to do versus different sets and different situations. He's very cerebral with how he uses his hands and attacks the QB, and he just backs Petit Frere right up into the lap of Mason Rudolph, owns him, and opens up that inside for the sack. This is a tremendous rep, and we're continuing to see this type of win happen regularly for him with that inside move.
Yeah, he had 11 hurries in this game, 11 pressures, and a lot of them were that inside move versus the depth tackles. Both the tackles played for them. And they're both terrible, but you saw the same move, that same power, that same long length, in his arms, and just driving the inside line right to the quarterback. And so again, that kind of led to the Bills eventually getting the ball back, right? And we saw them start to now look to the Jimmys and the Joes. They said, you know what? We traded for Cooper. Let's get him isolated on the backside of a 3-by-1 or 4-by-1 formation. Go figure. Isn't this something we talked about last week?
Yep.
Hey, you need an X wide receiver on the backside of these that can win short, intermediate, and deep versus
Mm,
press jam versus off. Well, guess
mm,
what? They ran a leverage route with him. There's a play we've seen a bunch with the
mhm.
quad set to the top of the screen. They like to fake that little run to the running back and usually throw it over the middle to one of the tight ends, Knox or
Mhm,
Kincaid, very quickly. But that's taken away. Middle
mhm.
field's taken away. But guess what? Now the eyes are in the middle of the field. It's not open. Now he can look to his X. And you see the release at the bottom of the screen. The release was just
Oof.
filthy. And that separation's created. And then Josh locks it in with a nice throw, towards the boundary. But even though we saw the early win from Cooper there and creating that separation, you'll see from the end zone angle, it was still locked in when you're talking the throw and catch at the back end of this play. It's still there. And so you saw Cooper win with his speed early in that release, but he does lock it in late as well. And just it's nice to have that kind of option on the
Yeah.
backside of these routes, because a lot of times 4x1, a type of plays or formations, teams want to go man up with that because it's tough to play zone coverage against that. And so if you're going one-on-one with the backside, defender on Cooper, the Bills love having the option of throwing it to a guy like that now.
Yeah, and if you're a defense, like you said, like if you get caught in a 4x1 or actually true 4 strong, the coverage can get drained really quickly, and you find yourself just with like allowing gaps in coverage. And like you said it there, like Cooper separates on the release, but there's still that separation at the
Mhm.
catch point because of how well he separated initially and then how he stemmed this route. This is such a fun play overall. I really like this concept every time they do it, trying to take advantage of the fast flow at the second level, using the fake toss to the running back to get the second level out of position. If that doesn't work, or if the backside, X isn't available, you still have that escort swing to the
Mhm.
running back out of the backfield, which is a nice little check down or option if you want, as you highlighted there.
Yeah.
Kincaid releasing out, Ray Davis releasing behind him. So if Allen wants to check it down to Davis, there's Kincaid already in the front as kind of a lead blocker, but he doesn't need to, because after Knox isn't open, he gets his eyes to his new number one receiver. And yeah, man, that release was so good. And I love that, you recognize Brownlee. He was, how well he and Tavondre Sweat were playing coming into this game were such big, like kind of thrills for me in terms of like finding some guys like, wow, they're playing really good.
Yeah.
And I love how Brownlee continued that in this game, just locked down, so physical, so sticky. Cooper gets him at this point. And then, as you have highlighted there and have conveniently labeled for the folks at home, single high coverage and single high. If you're on the audio only, single high is in all caps with multiple exclamation points.
Yes.
You also have that single high safety who, what have we talked about? The Bills struggles against single high looks, whether it
Mm.
was cover 3 or
Yes.
cover 1. And that single high safety reacts a little bit to Knox. It's pretty much a one-on-one situation outside
Yes.
with Cooper versus Brownlee. Cooper wins. This is what you want to see. Whether it doesn't matter if it's cover 3 or cover 1. The Bills have been getting these single high looks like we talked about last week and have talked about for multiple weeks. And whether it's true man or it's the backside of a cover 3, especially with Tennessee's tendency to kind of lock the backside, whether they were in
Yes.
cover 3 or quarters, when you'd get 3x1s or 4x1, you need a guy who can win one-on-one. And that's what Cooper did. And also, just so one last piece,
Yeah.
we keep talking about the momentum. So after that Greg Rousseau sack, it led to a 2nd and 18, then a 3rd and 18, then the punt. Then you get this play early in that next drive, a nice chunk. This play came
Mm.
right after Ray Davis busted off a 22-yard run 2 plays before. So you get a Ray Davis 22-yard gain. Then you get a gain of 6. Then you get this 19-yard chunk to Amari Cooper, and you're starting to approach the red zone, continuing to further that momentum, continuing to further that success.
Yeah. And I was pretty shocked at the rapport that we saw from Allen and Cooper. That throw included, that one you just
Mm,
saw, but this one as well, because the Titans spin out into this too high look, and Cooper honestly is probably not really open. There's an inside backer right in front of him, and then he has that squatting corner when the corner's
mhm.
watching the flare by Cook. But you can see, this corner's paying attention to him. He knows who's right there. And as Hollins goes deep and he kind of lifts the coverage with those 3 defenders, Cooper starts to slide to the boundary, slides to that open area, as you see between the corner and that inside backer. And Josh wants to hit him. And so as Cooper slides, Josh smartly doesn't throw it to the outside shoulder, because then you can see the corner make a
Mhm.
break on the ball and probably intercept it. No, he throws it to the inside shoulder, but he throws it up and away from the corner. in that kind of rapport and sliding the space, but then Cooper putting his body in position to catch it, to get yards after the catch. This rapport was special, all things considered. When you're talking, he was traded for what on Tuesday, Anthony, and this
Yeah.
is Sunday. Like that was pretty. That was like natural, and so to have that kind of rapport early, and paid off dividends for the Bills offense, as you see on this 27-yard game from Allen to Cooper.
Yeah, this is a 27-yard gain. Like you said, it marches them close to the red zone again. Good field position on their own 44-yard line. This drive would end in a touchdown and make it 24-10. It really kind of, for all intents and purposes, put the nail in the coffin.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, again, like you said, the good rapport. We heard it multiple times in the broadcast. Cooper was staying extra with wide receivers coach Adam Henry. He was working with Allen. He was talking with Allen, really trying to build as much chemistry and rapport as they could before game time. And I love your call out there. The initial reaction from Cooper seemed like, okay, like he's so good at finding those windows. He sees the linebacker there. He's like, okay, cool. Let me kind of move into space a little bit towards the sideline. But Allen throws it because he sees that corner underneath. And again, like you said, Brownlee's going to make that play. Even if it's not an interception, he's going to get his hand on that ball if that ball is close to him. Look at, even with Allen throwing it back towards more of the inside shoulder of Cooper to keep it away from Brownlee, he still comes pretty close to getting his left hand on this ball. Like he's still near, man. We should just do a film room on Brownlee. Like I was so impressed with him in this game. I really loved it. I like this tape.
Yeah,
at
he
Louisville
played with
too.
confidence and aggressiveness.
Yeah, it was fun. His Louisville tape, he was grabbing Johnny Wilson, the huge receiver from Florida State, and chucking him around. They had a fight. So it was nice to see him playing this game. So he's trying to bait Allen. He's trying to play in that window. Allen sees it, adjust it. That's good. That's good on good from the defender, from Allen, from Cooper, and that's nice to see. There's not some coverage bust. Somebody didn't fall down. It's a good play from Allen, a good play
Pulls
from
the
Cooper.
string again. Look at the wind,
again.
and he still pulls the string. The trajectory isn't on the line. It's not one of his rifle shots. It's up and high. It's placed perfectly to Cooper. Just awesome stuff, man. Like I was blown away. This was probably my favorite play of the game when you're talking the offensive side of the ball because of that rapport that was needed on that play. And so now, the first half, the Titans didn't play man coverage at all. And that changed in the second half. It was more of a split. And so, again, it was the Jimmies and the Joes. And you see this trip set to the top of the screen. This is one of the Bills base concepts. It's usually called double China 7, right? And so you have two in-breaking routes and then a corner route by Kincaid on this play. Well, man coverage, you find your best matchup. And that matchup was Kincaid here. Just the sick release on this corner route and just an enormous amount of separation. And then once again, the throw from Josh from the end zone angle is just beautiful. Watch how he drops his arm delivery down with pressure in his face. He drops it down a little bit off platform, sidearms it, and then just drops it in the bucket for Kincaid for the explosive play versus man coverage.
Yeah, this was another one from a situational perspective. It's third down on the same drive as the Cooper play that we just showed. And this one moves them down to the 2-yard line, moves them into the low red zone where they would score 2 plays later. And again, for all intents and purposes, kind of put the nail in the coffin. It looks like man coverage pre-snap. We get the motion indicator from Mac Hollins, which kind of furthers that and shows man even more. And yeah, like you said, it's just Jimmy's and Joe's. The Titans are in cover 1. They drop out that linebackers, the low hole player, but they have 3 safeties on the field. So that number 44, who's covering Kincaid, is their third safety in terms of number, but also in terms of the depth chart. Brown is, the third guy there. So it's Kincaid one-on-one against the number 3 safety on the team and just beats him on the release. Then he stacks him. I like how after he stacks him, he sells vertical like you do when you stack, kind of create that, where am I going to go? 2-way go. Puts that foot, stabs to the corner, creates a separation, and then the throw, like you said, from Allen. There's pressure on Allen on this throw. He is throwing this ball as Kincaid is making his break. So he's throwing it to a spot, and then Kincaid tracks it and brings it down. And I just love the trajectory on the ball. Allen kind of like flicks it out there or floats it, and it's right on point. And we see Kincaid make that kind of style catch that he always does with the hands. This time the hands are out in the little diamond a little bit, but he's trying to catch it and get forward immediately. He's already trying to turn upfield as he makes that catch to try and get into the end zone, get stopped at the 2, but the Bills would score a couple plays later.
Yeah, that was an awesome play by both those guys.
Yeah.
It again, football, while that start to this game was rough. It's gonna be like that at times, like that's the way football is. Sometimes you're not gonna get out to those fast starts. And in the second half, the Bills started hitting the Jimmies and the Joes. And here's one where they're trying to hit Cooper, they're trying to hit Kincaid, and those guys aren't open. The Titans do a good job. Look where the ball's spotted. They're inside the 5-yard line, and they're playing in a too high structure on defense. So Cooper's running a backline dig. We're getting a follow concept from Kincaid. And just look how the defense, the inside backers, carry Cooper, eliminate him. Then you see Kincaid have outside leverage by this safety. You have a poaching safety on this side. So these guys are all on the back line. They're taking away. The Titans are doing a great job of defending that back line versus some of the weapons there. Well, what that does is it leaves the middle of the field wide open for the check down to Ty Johnson. And Josh, he was in control on this play. He saw that from the get-go. He noticed that, hey, my primary and secondaries aren't really open. Well, guess what? If that's true, if they're really, capping the deeper stuff, the backline stuff, well, then I have an underneath check down. And this was just an easy touchdown off of, again, Cooper, Kincaid, and getting defended deep. You're getting, the Jimmies and Joes taken away. Well, guess what? A smart play by the quarterback to find his check down.
Yeah, this one, it's nothing sexy, but this is arguably my favorite play just because of the decision from Allen and how everything plays out. The coverage a little bit can be a little muddy because you're in the red zone, but it looks like they're in a Tampa 2 with how the corners are squatting outside, and then that middle linebacker Ernest Jones carries and relates to the inside route, and it's just Allen understanding the down and distance and situation and where they are. There's no reason or need to force the ball here anywhere on second down. Amari Cooper pulls and drains the coverage a little bit and has some gravity. And Allen just sees it and is like, okay, I'm going to check it down into the vacated space because Jones left and kind of ran the pole a little bit. So there's this vacated space in the center. Allen checks it down because worst case scenario, say Ty Johnson gets tackled right there. Okay, it's 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line. You're going to go for it on 4th. So you got 2 opportunities to just hammer it in there, probably with Allen, which has a high success rate down there. Yeah. It's just a good, smart decision. And I also like what Ty Johnson does. He check releases, he scans to see if there's anything, and immediately gets to that vacated spot over the ball, turns, makes himself available to Josh Allen. Look at the hands, snatches the ball out of the air.
Body positioning, right?
Yes.
He's open to where the ball's being thrown,
Yeah.
so he just quickly turns upfield to become that runner.
Yeah, it's like he's in the low post, kind of, wanting the ball from the point guard. Like, hey, I got good positioning, give it to me. So he uses his body to shield from the defender, snatches it, brings it in, maintains control through contact, and turns and gets across the goal line. There's so many little individual pieces along with the decision making that I really liked here from Allen and Johnson, just how it related to everything in general. I was very excited to see that play there. And just again, considering what we'd seen from Allen at certain points and certain struggles, I think when you see Allen kind of playing out plays like that and taking me like, oh, okay, that's going to happen. Cool. Down and distance situation.
Yeah.
Plus I know what's happened and let me do this instead. It's nice to see that mixed in with like the force of nature type plays, which is normally what he gets recognized for.
Right, and Josh, he didn't force it in the first half. Did he leave a few plays on the field? Absolutely, especially underneath. Yeah. Versus a really good Titans defense. Let's put that out there.
Yes.
That defense overall is really, really good, especially versus the pass. And even last week, the Jets defense, we obviously know they gave Bills issues as well. So Josh played under control. He didn't put the ball in harm's way. He let the game come to him. And so, yes, they started off slow, but then you saw some of the adjustments on the offensive side of the ball and them saying, we have really good players. Let's call plays for the Jimmies and the Joes, not just run the offense and have Josh go through his progressions. They played with a purpose on who they were throwing to in the second half. They obviously had good balance between the run game and pass game, I thought overall as well, on top of that. So it was cool to see to go through this film room and show the defense and how that momentum helped the Bills offense get jump started, and then how the Bills offense jump started and, got up, and then obviously they played off each other and they complemented each other so well. That was a fun film room, and obviously some great film from some guys that, stepped up on both sides. When you're talking Bernard, Carter, Rousseau, Josh Allen, Amari Cooper, Kincaid, a little bit of everything for everyone. Everyone kind of ate on both sides of the ball, which is why the Bills win in the end, handily against the Titans.
Yeah, this was one where you needed everybody to kind of step up a little bit and turn things around. And, Rousseau, who we highlighted earlier, and you mentioned 11 pressures against Tennessee, a 27.5 pressure rate, which is just nuts. But like you said, that kind of flowed into the complementary football aspect. The Bills kept scoring on offense and put the Titans on the back foot. The Titans had to pass the ball a little more. The Bills were able to isolate arguably their best edge rusher against the weakest point of the Titans line in their right tackle, no matter who it was going to be. And Rousseau ate with regularity. It got the Titans out of, living in that run game world and the play action world underneath, because the Bills were like, cool, we're up by 14. You can complete. We're not going to sell out against the run or sell out, and you take advantage of the play action, slide route to the tight end in the flat, or the little arrow route to the flat, and allow you to get 10 or 15. We'll just treat it as no cover and then come down, make the tackle for 5 or 6. Everything started to stack positively for the Bills, and it really was because of the adjustments between the coaching staff and between the players, like we highlighted in this episode, which I think really kind of, again, puts more things into perspective for fans. Things don't always work as you want them to coming out of the gate. Sometimes your game plan sucks. Sometimes, and you got to throw it out completely. Sometimes you just got to tweak it. Sometimes you have to tweak it a little bit more. There's a lot of tinkering that has to happen. It's not just, week to week or quarter to quarter. Sometimes it's drive to drive, it's play to play. And not everything is, you're calling plays and you want it to work. But like we talked about in the intro, Eric, sometimes it's, or not even sometimes, it's also just about gathering intel and gathering data. And if a play works, cool. If it doesn't, it still has value because it told you something about the opponent on that side of the ball. And watching the Bills stack it together on both sides and turn an ugly game at half that was 10-7, where you're thinking, dude, are they going to lose to the Titans? And then you look at the final score and it's like, I can't believe we thought they were going to lose the Titans. And and again, I know Snead was out and he hadn't been playing great this year, but the Titans have a good defense schematically and some really good dudes. So that was a good performance from that side of the ball in particular.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, obviously, especially that second half. And
Yeah.
for film junkies like ourselves to see the adjustments, that's why this staff, and you saw, the ranks by quarter and everything, like you see why, these type of adjustments and kind of swings and trends really show up in those statistics. And that falls, on some of the players at times, and it falls on some of the X's and O's and the coaches. And we wanted to show you that because that's been a lot of the discussion, and how the Bills, don't really, come out and start hot. And there's no context or perspective really shown by a lot of people. So we wanted to show you how and why that unfolds in a game from the top down. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, because for us, that's fun to slow the game down, to show how a run worked in the first half, and then in the second quarter and in the third quarter, it gets shut down, and now the game script changes. It just that's football, and that, to us, that's why we geek out in the film room when we can do the episodes like this.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Like watching the tape. First of all, like each side of the ball wasn't like an hour and 10 minutes long, which was nice. But being able to watch that and see those pieces develop, and then see how Cooper was starting to come along, how Coleman came along a little bit, and even the other side of the ball. I love Roger McCreary. Seeing him do some things, seeing Brownlee, seeing Simmons, seeing Sweat, seeing Pollard do some things, Skoronski and Latham. Yeah, this was a fun watch individually, but also schematically. And I think that was very well said by you as we start to kind of move forward here and wrap this up, just with keep that thing in, perspective of how games go forward, how teams play along.
Yeah.
It isn't necessarily just, hit the ground running 100 miles an hour right out of the gate. Sometimes it takes that adjustment. It takes that, feeling out of your opponent. It takes understanding who and what they are in that moment, how you can adapt, how you can alter your game to kind of finagle and play off of them. And at the end of the day, we say it all the time, the win is the win. Like, it doesnn't matter if you won 34-10 and you scored all 34 points in the fourth quarter, or you scored all 34 points in the first quarter. The win's the win. The Bills adjusted. The process was sound behind it. I know everybody's wilding out. Of course they started out slow, because McDermott teams are all, the one that gets me is And I'm not a huge McDermott defender, but the one is, of course, they started out slow. McDermott's got this team horribly prepared once again. They didn't come out strong, or they're not ready to play.
Right.
That isn't necessarily always the case. Like, does it happen sometimes? Sure, of course, because everything happens at times with variables, but like, let it play out. Like, football's a chess match and a game of punches and counter punches, man. You gotta kind of let that play out a bit.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
yeah.
And before we get out of here, and I want you guys to do us a favor and leave us a comment in the comment section on YouTube. Let us know who or what position you want the Bills to, if you have any ideas, who you want them to trade for, any type of acquisition for them. Thanks to our sponsors at BetUS. Awesome graphic. And obviously the Bills made one big move already in Amari Cooper. I mean, honestly, you're talking trades, the perfect fit for what the Bills need. And I hope we showed that in the film room, because it matched exactly what we did last week when we're breaking down his film and why and how he can make a maximum impact in the Bills offense.
Yeah, our biggest question was just like, what was his usage going to be? How would he get worked in? And kind of, similar to the Bills offense, little ugly, drops the first pass that comes his way.
It was.
But started out, ugly, but finished strong and getting a touchdown, getting on the board. And that was just not even a full week in the building. So it's exciting to kind of see that and think of what could happen going forward for, the rest of this year with Cooper in the lineup and with the team and with the squad. So very excited. And if they add someone else at the deadline, I think it would be, fun for us to dive into that film. Hopefully it doesn't happen the day, like an hour before we do the show, and doesn't throw us into hell like it has so much at times with the team. But yeah, this is a fun graphic, a little fun activity. So if you folks want to drop us a comment, that's awesome. And again, this graphic presented by our friends at BetUS, the show powered by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino. And BetUS, if you are looking for a new football sportsbook this season, BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest payouts in the industry. They will give you a 150% deposit on your first deposit, and then a 125% bonus on your next two deposits, up to $2,000 with code YouTube150. That's YouTube150. They give you a fast and easy deposit and withdrawal process, 24/7 personalized service, 365 days a year, live wagering on all major games, the best betting variety in the business. They allow you to get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And they can also give you your very own personal account manager, which I think is a nice touch of personability and kind of, walking you through that process. So again, thank you very much to our friends at BetUS for sponsoring the show and being part of this. And it's nice to always have BetUS and really anybody on a week where the Bills have a win. And that's what the Bills did against the Tennessee Titans. And Eric, as we wrap up here, is your mind in anywhere particular? Or are you fully focused on Seattle already? Is there something you still want to wrap from this game? Where's your mind at as we start to look forward as the Bills continue in this 2024 season?
Bills have a big game this coming week on the road. There's a lot working against them. You're talking the opponent, but also the travel situation, how they handle that. Playing against that team in that stadium is difficult. I mean, it's probably the closest thing to what the Bills playing when they're at home. And so avoiding those disaster type plays, protecting the ball for Josh Allen, that's going to be incredibly huge when you're talking playing the Seahawks and staying on schedule, not getting behind the chains, because it's a rowdy place to play. And obviously they don't play them all that often, so there's going to be a filling out process. So if the game starts off slow again, have some patience, guys. Don't panic.
Yeah.
This is football. Again, it takes time for these things to develop. So, I mean, it's going to come down to, 2 or 3 plays in this game. And in one of those plays, or maybe even more, maybe a turnover. And so the Bills have to do a good job of limiting turnovers, but creating turnovers on the road against Seattle.
Yeah, it's a tough place to play. They're a good team. They've been really hindered by a ton of injuries this year. The offensive line, the defensive line, they've got some injuries in the backfield now. They have Bills legend Tyrell Dodson, who was everybody's favorite when he was here. And I'm excited for this one. I really like the juxtaposition of who and what Geno is versus what Allen is, like how technical and refined Geno Smith has become and how he navigates the pocket versus how Josh Allen kind of bends it to his will at times. And no DK Metcalf most likely in this game, which is disappointing, but
hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not for the Bills, but Kenneth
Hope you're
Walker.
healthy, please don't play.
Yeah, right. Yeah, hope everything's okay. But you just sit out this week. Thank you so much. But what they do in the run game and what Kenneth Walker is, and we get to see Byron Murphy, who we loved this past offseason in the draft cycle. And There's a lot of fun dudes on Seattle, and they play some good football. And I'm not loving the 4 o'clock start. I know that's a stupid thing to complain about, but kind of power through. But this is going to be a fun game, an exciting game, a nice kind of styles make fights. And I think with how these two teams operate, it'll make for a good one and an entertaining one this upcoming Sunday at 4 o'clock in Seattle. That'll do it for us here in this episode of the Film Room. If you have not already, please, 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 and thank you, drop a like on this video. Likes are the lifeblood for these streams. So if you have not already, please, please, and thank you again, drop a like on this video. Turn on notifications for the Cover One Film Room playlist. Subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. We have you covered pretty much every single day of the week with varying levels of Bills content, both live shows and recorded shows as well. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps or platforms, that's very cool too and very much appreciated. Please rate and review and subscribe to the Film Room, the Cover One channel, and all the other shows that kind of fit your fancy and your liking on those platforms as well. Word of mouth is also tremendously appreciated. We are an organic grassroots company. Tell your friends, family, loved ones about how awesome the show is, the brand, the channel. If you're just talking Bills or football in general, we greatly appreciate it. Also, if you folks want some additional film coverage from this past week, Eric did an in-depth video on what Amari Cooper added. So his catches, his targets, also what he opened up for some other guys in the offense like Dalton Kincaid. So if you want to see something further focusing on Amari Cooper, we've got that video up on the Cover One channel as well. It is titled Amari Cooper's Immediate Impact on the Buffalo Bills offense. So if you want that, gravitate over towards there. And then I did one on Coleman's game against the Titans, his first 100-yard, I don't think his first 100-yard receiving game thus far in his NFL career. I broke down all of his targets, all of his catches, and then a couple other ones that show sometimes in a not so positive light who and what he is right now in terms of a player. So if this episode of the Film Room got you craving more film content and more breakdowns and X's and O's stuff, we got you covered there on the channel. Thank you again to everyone, whatever form or fashion your support or episode consumption comes in. We greatly appreciate it. We're very thankful for it. We hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. For myself, Anthony Prohaska, for Eric Turner, that'll do it for us in this episode of the Film Room. Godspeed. We'll see you next week. And as always, go Bills.